So Ramsay Hunt syndrome is a form of facial paralysis that can occur from reactivation of a viral infection. Many people will have heard of chickenpox, and chickenpox can cause a reactivation of the virus in the form of shingles, which is a rash on one part of the body. Now, if that rash occurs around the facial nerve, it can cause a sudden onset of facial paralysis, often linked with some pain around the ear or behind the ear. So people who have Ramsay Hunt syndrome will have had the viral infection at some point in the past, and it's a reactivation of that previous infection that causes them to develop these sudden symptoms, much in the same way that people who develop shingles, a sudden rash, will have had the infection sometime previously, typically with chickenpox. The significant factor here is that usually the people who develop this have some other issue going on at the same time that causes their immune system to be depressed. So they'll either be under a lot of either physical stress or some other illness, or sometimes even emotional stress that can cause people to feel run down, the immune system becomes suppressed, and they get this reactivation of the virus. The symptoms that Mr. Bieber has described are classic for facial paralysis. The first thing that people realize is that their eye becomes dry, uncomfortable, can be gritty, and that's why it's really important that patients have their eye care taken care of early on. An inability to keep fluid or food in the mouth is also something that patients often care about a lot. Just a simple thing like brushing your teeth and trying to spit out the toothpaste can be very difficult if one side of the face is paralyzed. On the video that was shared, I can see that there are signs that there is some early recovery happening. Again, in those areas, it's really important that patients do not try to force the recovery by doing exercises, because they can reinforce the wrong patterns of muscle activation, which can cause long-term problems, a so-called condition called synkinesis, where the muscles become tight. So I see patients who are in the entertainment sector frequently with facial paralysis, and they have this very specific issue because it's their livelihood. I was once contacted a couple of years ago about an actress who was on a shoot who developed Bell's palsy, and obviously there's a huge financial pressure there for her to get back into role. It's really, really important that patients should think about the long-term outcomes and forget about the short-term. Patients should ensure that they are both physically well, that any issues that cause their immune system to have become weakened, that can have caused the onset of the condition itself, are addressed, and to make sure they get their full recovery naturally first before they force themselves into doing things that are going to perhaps lead to long-term issues. We would anticipate overall that patients with Ramsay Hunt syndrome who receive the appropriate treatment at the right time should receive maybe a 70 to 75% rate of full recovery. Now that is based on the fact of them receiving both steroids and antivirals in a timely manner. Patients who do not receive those have maybe a 50-50 chance of full recovery.